A very warm good evening to all the distinguished dignitaries, respected speakers, senior members, and dear participants joining us from across the country. On behalf of the Committee for Members in Practice of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I am delighted to welcome you all to this thought provoking and deeply relevant webinar titled Bridging the Mindset Gap, Empathy, the Hidden Strength of a Chartered Accountant, and what I wish every young CA knew from CA, an author, and a teacher. Today's program is designed to shift perspectives, challenge assumptions, and inspire professionals at every stage of their journey. We are privileged to have the august presence of CA Madhukar Narayan Hirgange, Chairman Committee for Members in Practice, our eminent speakers of the evening, CA PR Ramesh, CA V Patabi Ram. Sir, we thank each one of you for gracing the event. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce a visionary, professional, and an inspiring leader, CA Madhukar Narayan Hirgange, sir, the chairman of the Committee for Members in Practice. Over to you, sir, for your welcome remarks.
Thank you, Priyanshu. That was nice start. Good start for the day. I'll keep my talk a bit short because I am keen to listen from both the speakers a bit more. But briefly, for the benefit of all the new joinees who have come today, CMP has looked at changing the landscape of the work available to the SMPs. We are looking at first moving to consulting more. Compliance is, routine compliance is being taken over by automation and AI, and therefore consulting, value-added consulting could be the way out. We are also in those, we are looking at non-traditional areas and new age services like KPO, virtual CFO. We are also looking at certain verticals where one-stop shop can be there by us joining hands with other professionals like lawyers, maybe even property dealers in a different way. They will not be partners with us, but we will get linked with them so that we can provide a one-stop solution to the MSMEs as one and one real estate. So the training will be there available in various aspects so that the chartered accountant can take up verticals. We've also looked at the earlier programs of Practice Ki Pathshala, where a person who has taken a break in practice or wishes to move from job to practice, they can take up this 4-day course, which covers attitude building, covers technology, new age, new opportunities which are there, about 10, 12 are discussed, and then practical insights from successful chartered accountants. We also are looking at how to maybe position yourself and start with having a right direction in those areas. I will stop here. These are some of them. And this particular session which you are seeing is a session where we are looking at changing the mindset with regard to values, right attitudes, and also good habits. Thank you very much for joining today, and over to Priyanshu. Thank you, Priyanshu.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our first eminent speaker needs no introduction in the corporate and professional world. With an illustrious career spanning more than 40 years, CAPR Ramesh ji has been instrumental in strengthening India's regulatory and policy landscape. His experience and expertise has been sought by numerous prestigious committees and advisory bodies, where he has contributed meaningfully to reforms and governance initiatives through key roles with SEBI High Powered Advisory Committee Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India Advisory Committee, SEBI Committee on Disclosures and Accounting Standards, NACAS, RBI Working Groups, IRDA committees, and many others. He is also deeply associated with prominent industries body, including the Confederation of Indian Industry (CII) and has served as a past president of Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He currently serves on boards of leading companies such as Air India, Cipla, Nestle India, Crompton Greaves, ITC Hotels, L&T, and among others. In recognition of his exceptional governance and leadership, he has awarded the Best Independent Director Male 2022-23 by the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability. We are truly honored to have him speak here today on the topic that begins human dimension to our profession, empathy as the hidden strength of a chartered accountant. Sir, the virtual floor is yours.
Sure. For your kind words, and thank you, Madhukar, for that wonderful introduction. But I must, more than anything else, compliment you on this program. This is an extremely important program, and as you will see from the presentation which I will share and what I will talk, this is something which is absolutely critical. Give me a minute, I'm sharing. Yeah, I hope it's visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, sorry, let me go to the first slide. So, the topic which has been given to me is part of this Bridging the Mindset Gap series, and the topic is empathy, the hidden strength of a chartered accountant. Now, why I said we must complement ICF and particularly Madhukar's committee for members in industry, is we need to have more and more programs beyond technical. And choosing this, it is these, you may call them soft skills, you may call them hidden skills in a way. In this case, the title itself says hidden strengths, whatever it may be. But these are absolutely the core essentials. Technical knowledge keeps changing depending upon what changes happen in laws, what changes happens around the environment. But if you have to be a successful professional, soft skills, and these skills are absolutely essential. Take this particular thing, the word empathy, and I'll explain the picture to you why I selected this picture. If you look at the definition of empathy, there is a difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is all about your feelings, which you are trying to, or you may just want to be conscious of somebody else's feelings and assuage those feelings. But empathy is in a way putting yourself or into the shoes of the other person, looking at and feeling through the way the other person feels and conducts himself. It's not an easy skill to have. I'm not even sure it's a hidden strength. But if it is a hidden strength, we must bring it out. If it is not a strength, we must acquire that strength. The core is empathy in all aspects of life. It's that transformational quality. You can be the most wealthiest person. You can be the most knowledgeable person. You can have all the qualifications. But to succeed in the real world, this is one skill which is absolutely essential. Now take that picture. The picture is symbolic of navigating a very challenging barrier. It's a barrier where even one slip can mean death to you. In a way, doom for the professional, if you were to look at it symbolically. it reflects the support and guidance which is provided by a senior or the more dominant individual, and the others ride upon that experience of the, in this case, maybe the parent of that creature, whatever it may be. We will need the guidance and support of all the senior professionals and learn from that. We will then be able to navigate the most difficult of the barriers, if any, which we are facing. But besides that, when this topic was given to me, I started reflecting as to what should I speak about. Say, other than just say empathy is essential, it's a quality one must have, and start thinking about the hidden strength, how we should bring it out, etc. I felt that we should ask ourselves, why do we need it? Why do we exist, or rather, what is our core purpose? Now, each one of us, once we enter practice, our purpose is to succeed in the practice. We are not in practice for charity. We are not in practice just to pass the time. And if you are, then of course, these lessons are not important for you. Maybe it's a different lesson which is required for you. But if you are in practice to succeed, and that is an aspiration which everyone must have, and because each one of us starts somewhere and we don't know where we're going to end. Now, I have been 50 years in the profession so far, or more than 50 years anyway, and close to that. And, I didn't really know where I would be when I started my career. I didn't know what is required of me. Thankfully, you now have the number of programs which ICAI has, both online and real time, and the wealth of materials which ICAI is having, apart from the wealth of material which is provided in the technology space. In the real world, the extent of data which is generated, it is something which is being generated every month, which is not equivalent to what is generated from in a lifetime or from the inception of mankind. That's the volume of data which is generated. So it's for us to be able to capture that, take the benefits of that, and succeed. And when I started my career, I had no idea where I would finally land up in. It's a different matter that I became successful, and maybe a lot of it may be fortunate, a lot of it may be because people have helped me along the way, a lot of it may be the organization where I served, a lot of it is also due to the profession which I am part of. And if that is so, I have benefited significantly from this external environment. And it is that which I'm trying to share with you today, some parts of the lessons, and relating it to empathy, so that you understand the purpose is to succeed. There is no use after 40, 50 years when you're retired, reflecting back and saying, I wish I had done something differently. There is a book I would recommend you all to read. There's a book called, if I recall it right, it's How Will You Measure Life? It was written by a Harvard professor who's no more. His name is Professor Clayton M. Christensen. Now, he in the book, he's a Harvard professor. He was a Harvard professor, mind you. He was also on the board of TCS in India. He's a great man in strategy. But he, whilst in the book, starts reflecting from the time he started his education in Harvard, 35 years before. So he starts reflecting. He says, 35 years ago, I was a student of Harvard. Now 35 years, and then I had a set of people in my class. All of them are brilliant because you can't enter a Harvard unless you're brilliant. All of them received the same input. They're all in the same class. They received the same input. They passed the same exam. Where are they 35 years later? Why is it some are Fortune 500 CEOs? Why is it some have failed marriages? Why is it some are in jail? Jeff Skilling, I think, was one of his classmates of Enron, was in jail. Why is it some didn't succeed at all? He classifies in the book into three elements: resources, processes, priorities. But that's not the subject matter of my talk now. All I'm trying to tell you is, if you reflect back, all your colleagues, when you passed CA, you can't get into CA and pass CA unless you're good. You've received the same input. But thereafter, put yourself in a clock like how I did, 50 years later, or maybe 30 years, whatever it may be. Say, where are those people who pass here along with me? Are they leaders? Are they very successful professionals? Have they not succeeded at all? And if I reflect on that, in my own case, I know of people who are senior to me who still are in a maybe 10-man practice, 2 partners, 8 other professionals, including office staff, despite 40 plus years. Now, maybe, I mean, I'm not here to make value judgments, but all I'm saying is my definition of success may be different from their definition of success. It's about being contented, but irrespective of what that may be, the reality is in today's world, which is exponentially growing, and where the institute is growing, it's 350,000 plus professionals across the world. India is growing, and India's aspirations of Viksit Bharat, and India's aspirations of $5 trillion economy and being the world's 3rd largest economy. They're aspirations. When everybody has aspirations, you and I should have the same aspiration. I mean, it's Albert Einstein who said, doing the same thing over and over again and to expect different results is insanity. So you need to do something different. So let's therefore first understand, what is the environment which is around us? What is our purpose? What are those elements in that purpose which we need to address if we are to be successful? And what is required to be a successful professional? And more importantly, a good human being and a successful human being. Because not important you are a good professional. It's not important that you are a successful professional. You have to be a good human being in addition to being a successful professional. And that's when you not only keep the flag of the profession flying, of which you are part of, which groomed you, but your contributions to society is not measured by the rhetoric about the slogans which you like to speak about. It's measured by your actual conduct and your contribution. So let me start moving. Today, the times, though you say it's a VUCA world, it's moved to a Bani world. It's a highly volatile world. It's uncertain world. It's exceedingly complex. And there is so much of ambiguity all around. Equally, the geopolitical situation is brittle. The political situation is brittle within a country. It's a world which is anxious, not predictable. It's non-linear, definitely not a straight line where you could predict. And in many situations, it's incomprehensible. It therefore means that for us to scale new heights will always be a challenge. It's not easy. When there is so much happening around you, there is so much which is unpredictable. There is so much which you are not prepared for. What is that skill which will be required? It is definitely empathy, because you're trying to understand others. You're trying to understand what is happening around. It's not about reflecting on yourself. Sure, if you want to look in the mirror and pat yourself and say, I am great, you will never move ahead. That's not empathy. That is ego. That is already looking at yourself. That is not the quality which one looks at. So therefore, if we are all members in practice, and this comes under the committee of members in practice, let us look at what is the requirement to build a successful firm, a successful function within a firm, or even a practice if it's not a firm. Let's just look at this. And I'll give you in very simple terms. I'm not going to take you through a long master class, but despite the experience which I've had, but I'll take you through some very, very simple things. Look at this. What does it do? There are three things, right? We have our clients. We serve our clients through the service products or the services which we render to our clients. And being a professional services firm, significantly, we provide that service through our talent, through our people. Now, if you look at these three circles, can you serve clients without understanding what the clients want? The answer is no. It's only in a restaurant that when you go there, he will have a menu and a la carte. He will ask you, of course, I have a thali. When there is a thali, you have no choice. You have to take everything which is given to you, irrespective of your feelings. Your only feeling, of course, there may have been to fill your stomach. But essentially, even in a la carte in a restaurant, it is within a fixed range. Now, if you have to be successful in serving clients, don't you think you must ask yourself, what do the clients want? Now, you heard Mr. Madhukar Hiragange so eloquently describe, and rightly, saying we are creating programs for new age services. He used that term. Why did he use that term? It means services which are wanted today. It is not that the services which a chartered accountant had since 1949. Some of those services may be irrelevant today. So it brings me to the point of relevance. We all have to be relevant. If we are not relevant, we are not wanted. And if we are not wanted, we have no practice. You ask any professional, you ask Madhukar too, he'll answer the same thing. He will say he is sought after, he is wanted for his deep knowledge in indirect tax and maybe in many other areas too. Imagine how he would feel if he is not wanted. That means either the knowledge is not relevant or the individual is not relevant. So we need, if we exist because of our clients, we need to understand our clients. And therefore, we need to have that empathy, the quality, the ability to put ourselves in the client's shoes and understand what is it the client requires to succeed in the client's business. And if the client requires a certain type of service to succeed in the client's business or to deal with the issues in the client's business, then the client will come to you and ask you, do you have that service? Now, if you say, no, I only can do audit, I can do tax, I can do financial advising, I can't do ABCD, he will go where that service is available. This is one part of it. So clearly, to serve the client, you need to be able to have what we would call PRR, and PRR is not PR only. Just for clarification, PRR means you should not only be able to understand what is the value a client is willing to give for your services. Price is a very critical component of your service. That requires empathy. So each one of these, have you ever gone to a market and observed how even a vegetable vendor is selling? Have you gone into a shop, even when you go to buy, maybe if it's going to buy saris for your spouse or for anything, any product? Have you gone and seen successful shopkeepers, successful businessmen, how they sell? The biggest quality they have is empathy. They first understand your mind. What is it you need? And they understand very quickly what is the value you're willing to provide. And then they try and sell in the best possible manner, whilst they themselves make a profit. They also meet your need. Of course, there are some people who try to con you. There are people, but they will not succeed on long term. Reputation spreads faster than anything else. People will stop going to their businesses saying he's a cheat. He cheated me last time. Now, this is true of everything. If you're flying an airline, the airline needs to understand your mind. How much are you willing to pay for what time you are flying? What is your urgency? And that is why even whether it's airline or whether it's Uber or wherever it is, they have this concept of surge pricing. There is a demand. They know you're desperate. They know you're willing to pay something more. So that is their empathy into your collective mind. In some cases, your individual mind. And then the pricing happens. So the first P is pricing. Second, as I said, relevance. Your service should be relevant to them. Meaning, you should be able to give them what they need, not what you have. What you have is relevant to you. What you give them should be relevant to them. And finally, it should be reliable. It should be quality. Whatever you do, you need to understand what is the quality the person is seeking. And that requires an empathy. It builds that trust. You use so many terms: trusted brand, trusted advisor, trusted this. You trust certain Japanese products. You trust a certain brand when you buy. You trust when you say, I'm buying an Apple phone or a Samsung phone. You trust. That is because of the reliability. Blind trust developed over the periods. Whilst it may be reliable, there is still a limitation amount to which you're willing to pay. You'll not pay $1 million for an Apple phone merely because it's a great phone. You'll also not buy an Apple phone, it's not relevant to you. You look at what are the features, what's new, what it is. So remember this, when you're serving clients, you need empathy. We are in the business of serving clients. Don't forget that. We exist because of our clients, and each time you must reflect, what is it the market wants? What do people want? Is it something I can do as a chartered accountant? Is it something I need to partner? And that's why I liked when Mr. Madhukar Hiregange said, we are in a way aligning or partnering or connecting, whatever term he may have used, with others. Knowing really, and he used the word one-stop shop. That is the mindset of a client. And thankfully, ICA has the empathy to understand that mindset and said, try and seek a one-stop shop. You can't go to A for valuation, B for accounting, C for funding, and D for technology, E to somebody else for something else. I mean, it can't. The trend today is a one-stop shop. And rightly, as I said, you need to understand what comprises that one-stop shop. Today, we use fancy terms, maybe fancy, but it's becoming real, which is AI, artificial intelligence. They're getting into the customer's mind. They're getting at that. A large part of AI is also is predictability. And what is it? It is empathy. What is the next word you will use? What is the word which follows? It's significantly on trends. It's predictability. Have you, even when you watch a game of cricket, I would challenge you. When you watch a game of cricket, you may, in a way, you're reading into the mind of the batsman. The batsman is reading into the mind of the bowler. Empathy, one of the qualities of empathy is reading into the mind. And you can't be a successful cricketer unless you're able to read into the mind, if you're a batsman, into the mind of the bowler, if you're a bowler, into the mind of the batsman. So much for service and clients. Okay. Now we serve through our people. Now, if we don't have people, we may have service, we may have clients, but we have no profession. We can't function. If you have people, you have services, but if you have no clients, also you have no profession. Equally, if you have clients, you have a lot of people, but they don't have the skill sets, so you don't have the services which the clients need. You're left with clients who will start deserting you. You're left with people who are idle. And that's why you need to understand talent and understand their mindset. Empathy towards this core critical raw material. A large part of the raw material for professional firms is talent. And what does this? First is we must ensure our talent have passion and perseverance. If they don't have that passion to serve and serve clients well, they don't have it. And why I use the word perseverance? Because there will be ups and downs. There will be successes, there will be failures. It's a question of how much success and how much failures. And then talent also like recognition, right? They should feel wanted. Just like you as a firm or as a practitioner, chartered accountant should feel wanted. They should feel wanted by their own organization. They should feel wanted by you. And therefore they seek recognition. When people talk of promotion, when they talk of anything else, they are seeking recognition. Understand their mind, have that empathy towards them, to their feelings, and reward. Just as price in the context of clients is a function for which high level of empathy is required. Similarly, while rewarding clients, if you have a dissatisfied employee, he will leave and go. You need to have that empathy to understand what does he need. Am I rewarding him for all of his effort correctly? Am I rewarding him proportionate to competition, proportionate to his skill sets? So, in short, this one slide will give you what does it involve to do a successful firm. To summarize, you have no firm with no, if you don't have clients, if you have no services, you're not a practice. If you don't have people, you have no practice. You can be a solo professional. And you therefore need to create an organization that understands market needs, empathy, clients' needs, and which aligns to the market demand in a way you may understand, you may have that empathy, but you must act on that and align yourself to it. And above all, you should have people who will be able to deliver to that. Now, what do these people, clients demand? What does market demand? Market demands speed. Market demands quality without doubt. If you say I'll give it after 6 months, nobody wants you. In today's world, there's no waiting time at all. Absolutely no. They'll go to somebody else. They want service, and I mean service which should have those elements of price, cost, speed, quality, whole host of things. And quality is, that's a simple word, but extremely complex. And then they need it at the right price and value. Okay. Now, it therefore means that whilst we apply empathy, it is to ensure that market's expectation of flexibility is met, speed is met, agility is met, responsiveness is met, and we have to be constantly ongoing through that. Empathy involves in an element of continuous learning and exceptional creativity and innovation, because you understood what the person needs. Now if you don't have, better be creative, better be quick, precise, and of course consistent. And above all, market seeks a relationship. Market doesn't want transactional. And that is why we need that bonding. Client, service, talent, they have to be strongly bonded together. For that bonding, you need sustainable relationships. It cannot be transactional, because, and therefore, if that is so, what drives all of it? What drives all of this? And I'll take you through all those elements in the next 15 minutes before I pause for questions. The first thing is leadership. I mean, if you have to succeed, you need to be a leader. Your firm needs to be a leader. Your practice needs to be leadership. And leadership involves, there are different types of leaders. There's a knowledge worker leader, there is a servant leader, visionary change leader, charismatic leader. There are many elements to leadership and there are many qualities. One of them, without doubt, is empathy. There are many examples of leadership. I'm not going to go through all of it, except to say, It is not the position or title which makes it a person the leader. So if you have to be a successful practitioner, if you have to say, okay, that person has to listen to you, be influenced by you, you understood his mind through your hidden strength of empathy, that's not enough. You have to remember that holding a CA business card doesn't make you a leader. That's a title. That's a qualification. It is the as it says, inducing followers to act for certain goals that represent the values and motivations, the wants and needs, the aspirations and expectations of both sides. You need to understand. That's where the empathy comes in. And the task of the leader is to get people from where they are to where they have not been. The late Henry Kissinger, who passed away recently, he said this. I mean, you need to understand that mindset. Why is it some people are outstanding? Mother Teresa has phenomenal empathy. I was fortunate to have done work for her, and magnetic personality. There are some people who emerge as leaders, while many others who can't influence no matter how hard they try. Because people, the attributes of a leader are character, who they are, who they know, relationships, what they know, knowledge, what they feel, intuition, empathy is a great element, component of it, experience where they have been, past success, what they have done, ability in terms of what they do. As Mother Teresa said, Eleanor Roosevelt said this, Mother Teresa practiced this. To handle yourself, you need to use your head. But if you have to handle others, you need to use your heart. And you do that through empathy. This gentleman was another great leader. He always was humble. He was always empathetic. He built trust. He led by example and showing respect to others. Here is another person who led by example and earned respect, not demonstrated with power or violence, etc. So there are other qualities of a leader which I don't want to dwell upon. But the key is you must make a sacrifice and you must create other leaders. It is not enough to be it. Now let's look at what are the elements of a successful person or a successful professional. I told you this, it's not enough to have empathy alone. Ultimately, we all have to be successful. And for us to be successful, there are certain elements we must understand, even beyond empathy, and I'm using this platform to communicate that. Remember, it is 4 H's. The 4 H's are healthy, honest, hungry, and human. I'll take you through each of those. Now, you can have all the wealth in the world. You can be the richest person in the world. You can be the most knowledgeable person in the world. But if you're not the healthiest person, the wealth is of no use, the knowledge is of no use. So, as professionals, please pay attention to your health too, including mental health in addition to physical health. And that's where empathy also comes in. Trust yourself. Don't seek sympathy. Understand and learn from each other. So money, as this slide says, money, achievement, fame, success are important, but they are bought too dearly when acquired at the cost of health. What's the use? Burning your health to earn money. You can't enjoy it. A lot of people lose their health trying to become wealthy and then lose their wealth trying to become healthy. What's the purpose? If you want to be a picture of health, you better have a happy frame of mind. They say the physical condition of a man can be best judged from what he takes, 2 stairs at a time or 2 pills at a time. If you have to be fit as a fiddle, you must tone down your middle. And the worst is the middle age. That is when you tend to be complacent. So much for health. Honesty. This is Mr. Madhukar Hiragangia rightly aligned to it. Integrity he spoke of. I think before the program, he had a brief chat with us and he told us how important this is for professionals. You can build reputations and it takes years to build a reputation. It disappears overnight. Honesty is about conducting oneself when nobody is watching. There's no use trying to, people phrase, to be honest, I'm telling you this. Why to be honest? You have to always to be honest. Why do you have to preface your statement? Truthfully speaking, truthfully what? Untruthfully don't speak. We don't want to hear. Live your life that your autograph will be wanted instead of your fingerprints. An honest man alters his ideas to fit the truth. A dishonest man alters the truth to fit his ideas. Why is this subject of honesty important? Because when you relate it to empathy, you have to be honest in that. When you honestly understand the feelings. Honesty is one business policy that will never have to be changed, irrespective of the times. The third quality, which I personally believe in, you can be a great professional, the most outstanding. Of course, you may be honest, but you also have to be human. You're a human being first. Thereafter, you're professional, CA, qualified, whatever it may be. You are managing partner of a firm, whatever it is. So they say greatness is not found in possessions, power, position, or prestige. It is discovered in goodness, humility, service, and character. To be humble to superiors is duty, to equals courtesy, to inferiors nobility. Can you be humble to your driver, to the man on the street? You're a chartered accountant. Fine. So what? Can you? You are easy, you are very humble when it comes to your superiors, your boss in the office, or maybe the president of the institute. You will give a lot of respect. But the challenge is its nobility to be humble to inferiors. The true person with true humility never has to be shown his place. He's always in it. And we make another part of being human is to give, to be charitable, to help others succeed. As the picture shows, you're helping somebody else climb up. That requires a huge component of empathy. You're first understanding aspirations, you're reaching out to that person to help the person come up. And that is why we say we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And the fourth edge is hungry. Hungry is not about food, it's about the passion. If you don't have that burning sensation in your stomach to succeed, you will not even display empathy. Forget it. You may even seek sympathy. Some persons dream of worthy accomplishments while others stay awake and do them. You can often gauge a man's ambition by whether he hates his alarm clock or considers it to be his dear friend. I always say this, you have to ask yourself what wears out first. Does your pant wear out first, your bottom of your pant, your seats of your pant, or your shoes? If your seat of your pant is wearing out first, that means you're sitting in one place doing nothing. It'll naturally wear out faster. But if you're wearing shoes and your shoes wear out faster, you're in the market, you're serving people, you're moving about. The most successful people are hugely mobile. And that is important. A person with burning ambition is seldom fired. Let me get on to some non-negotiables. If you've seen the movie Sachin, A Billion Dreams, you must, if you're not, see it. When Sachin Tendulkar goes into bat, or for that matter, anybody, but more importantly, Sachin Tendulkar, a billion people are watching the match, some on TV, some physically, few thousands physically, right? They all live in hope that he will score 100. Let's say he's out the first ball. You think only Sachin Tendulkar is disappointed? He's hurt the feelings of a billion people. He shattered a billion dreams. Now, one act by us as professionals, we do something wrong. It's not a mistake we make which affects us. We may be affecting hundreds and thousands who have no fault, including people in your own organization who are impacted by it. They say, what? We didn't do anything. X did that mistake. And see, we have to pay the price. Their families have to pay the price. And that is why you have to remember quality is the best ambassador. Your reputation precedes you. And clients should feel confident of excellent outcomes every time they engage you. And this requires a huge component of empathy. We spoke of ethics. Integrity is non-negotiable. You know, this is a picture of Adam Gilchrist. Umpire declared him not out, caught behind. Yet he walked. Because he knows honesty means myself, I have to be honest. I don't require an umpire to tell me that I'm out, caught behind. Today, unfortunately, everybody waits for the third umpire and then they say, okay, decision review. Don't you know you're out? If you're caught behind, a law is part of it. This is an example. This happened in South Africa. They used sandpaper on the ball. Even the slightest, and of course, they were all suspended, and David Warner was also done. Even a slightest slip in our judgment can become a brand damaging incident as professionals. And this is where that mind is important. We all have confidential information all the time. We use it. And we have to be careful because clients trust us. And if you're doing listed company audits and all, this becomes extremely critical. You have to remember that you are subject to review. Your work is someday or the other, it'll happen today or tomorrow. And this happens today in cricket all the time. I've used pictures which are more, and we must be mindful of our responsibilities, not just our rights. Every time you remember this, then you will succeed. We must commit to collective learning, growth, compliance, and above all, success. So let me start closing this and I'll take questions. I cannot say whether things will get better if we change and with applying empathy. But what I can say, as Lichtenberg said, if we are to get better, we must change. If we have to apply empathy, we must so. Leadership, I re-emphasize, is not the size of your office, your title, your business card. It's about depth of our commitments and the passion to get things done. Success is simple. Do it what is right, the right way at the right time. But for all of these things, you need empathy. And that's why I was highly appreciative of the title of this topic. The only real security a man will have is the reserve knowledge, experience, and the ability. Pride and ego comes when we feel we have done something right. Respect and honor comes when others feel we have done something. It's for others to tell us that we have done something right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I've taken 45 minutes and there is time for questions, I suppose.
Thank you, sir. One of the questions is, what shifts in mindset are most essential for transforming from a technical competent chartered accountant to be an impactful leader?
2 points here. The first biggest shift in mindset has to be from an I mindset. People have this I problem. And I know this, I am this. It is nothing, it's about not I. It's about you. And that's why I appreciated this empathy. And I drive home this point. More importantly, a few years ago, in an event, we had asked Thomas Friedman, who wrote the book The World is Flat, a great author, as to what should one do in a digital age. The world is changing, people will lose jobs, automation. Today, the same thing can be applied to AI, etc. And even many services can disappear for chartered accountants. The fact that you are doing something from 1949 is completely irrelevant. That is history. History is not future. If history were the future, the world would have been static. It's the same. And therefore, it is looking ahead. When you drive a vehicle, you don't look at the rearview mirror all the time. You look ahead. And therefore, when we asked Tom Friedman what is required, he gave a simple formula. He said 5 things. I don't want to go out onto the 5 things. But he said a simple formula, PQ plus CQ is greater than EQ. What he said is, nobody knows the future. Nobody can predict the pace at which change will happen. Only a naive person will say, this is what I think will be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So, and it is highly likely what you are today may be relevant, tomorrow you are irrelevant because those skill sets are not required. How many require skill sets of typing today? More, there is audio to text. You don't require typing. I'm just illustrating many things. There is what we call autonomous vehicles, driverless cars. I was in San Francisco last month, full of driverless taxis called Waymo. People are using them. Now, if I extrapolate that to the rest of the world, it can happen in fairly soon. I don't know. What does it mean for a driver driving skills? Not relevant. So his formula was PQ is passion quotient. I alluded to that. CQ is the curiosity quotient. He said you have to be curious. Why? Why not? We are old people. We say my grandchild knows how to operate this iPad. I don't know. Or if your grandchild can do, why can't you? Because you have closed your mind. No empathy, no nothing, but you require sympathy on the contrary. So therefore, passion quotient plus curiosity quotient is greater than EQ. Or sorry, greater than IQ. He didn't say EQ, it's greater than IQ. He says, today you don't, as in a way, he didn't use the same language I'm using. A 6th class or 8th class pass with technology tools is better than a professional. We are seeing that. You look at the Uber drivers, you look at every taxi driver. He has a GPS, right? He's technology proficient. He may not even have studied in school, but he's savvy. And my driver listens to more music than I do. He's more smarter with the games he plays on his smartphone is much more than I do. And that is what is the reality. PQ plus CQ is greater than IQ. So the curiosity quotient is critical, but you also need to have the passion to move ahead.
The second one is there a risk of empathy clouding judgment? How can chartered accountants strike the right balance?
It's a very well framed question, but to exercise judgment, you need empathy. Empathy is one of the inputs to your forming judgment. There is a risk of any inputs impacting your judgment. There is a risk of using ChatGPT to impact your judgment because ChatGPT also hallucinates, that's what they say. So that risk is inherent. But that doesn't mean you don't. All I can say is judgment without empathy, the chances of failure are much higher. And judgment with empathy, the chances of success are very high. So it's a critical component.
This is the last one. Think of your most challenging client. What would change if you approach them with greater empathy?
Okay. So there have been, again, I can see the intelligence of the questions which are coming forth. This is the new generation, and I'm glad that they're thinking this way. When I showed that picture of clients, services, people, that I may have alluded to, but I may not have emphasized that in each of these, you need satisfaction. I said that in talent need to be satisfied, otherwise they leave and go, right? Similarly, clients need to be satisfied if they leave and go. So the most challenging client requires the highest level of empathy in understanding why the client has this expectation or why the client is behaving in this manner. That can be for a variety of reasons. It can arise because of the client's own situation. A distress in a client, he may be having cash shortages, he may be having bankers not giving him limits, he may be having a huge tax demand, he may be having depression in the marketplace by way of sales, could be any of factors. Empathy requires understanding that factor. Where is he coming from? Why is he? And then trying to see if there is any way you can address that problem. If that problem goes away, his conduct will be different. It can even be because of some challenge at home. It can even be because of the client's individual's own health. And that's why whenever I tend to lose my cool, I start reflecting, is there a problem with my health? Because sometimes it can be a medical condition which can trigger maybe some medicines you take, whatever it may be. It therefore requires a high level of empathy in understanding. The second thing is, in dealing with difficult clients, of course, the second element is to understand. When I use the word empathy, I would use another term called being client centric. Don't go to a client and say, I will do ABCD for you. Go to a client to say, ABCD issues of yours will be addressed in this manner. That means you're client centric. You're doing something which will benefit him. Incidentally, it may benefit you by way of fees. But don't go and saying, I have these products, I'm selling it to you. You don't need to sell a service. You need to meet a need. The day you start thinking of meeting a need, and sometimes you will find that even when you fly Indigo Airlines, sometimes you'll find when they're moving the cart, they're actually serving you, not selling. Though in reality they may be selling. They'll collect the money from you. But creating a feeling that, sir, do you need anything? That means they are asking you, you need something. Right? They're not saying we have this, we have that, we want to sell, and the price is cheap. Nothing of that. So that is the second quality. And the third quality is understand, doing an empathy, even understand, which will come up in empathy, is chemistry. Two individuals sometimes by chemistry don't blend. And therefore, I have had situations where the client relationship has improved when I just changed one person from RT. Dramatically. It's chemistry. Not that the person was bad, he was serving other clients very well. But with this client, he did not succeed. It's trying to understand, is it chemistry? So in all of it, it requires that analysis and application of empathy with time.
Madhukar sir, you
That's
want
it.
to Madhukar sir?
I think it is, we will listen to Pattabi, sir, because I think it is time also. I don't want to take away his time.
Okay,
Maybe
sir.
in the end, if I have some time, I will share a few things.
Sure.
But I can only say that, when I see the way he has taken it, I can recall the way we have built our office. Many of these things are almost, is echoing it. I, of course, got a few learnings, which I will share in the end.
All right.
Thank you, Ramesh sir.
So, our second distinguished speaker is a rare blend of a chartered accountant, storyteller, author, educator, and a motivator. CAB Patabi Ramji has taught over 76,000 CA students, shaping the careers and confidence of young professionals across India. He is also a prolific writer. Those works span friction, non-friction biographies. His noble publications include Tech Phenolics, Satyam's 100-Day Turnover, co-authored with CA T.N. Manoharan Sir, India in 2047, The Amazing Story of a Modern Nation. In recognition of his exceptional contribution to the profession and society, he received the Rotary International Lifetime of Professional Excellence Award 2024. Beyond his intellectual pursuits, he is also a sports enthusiast who enjoys squash and pickleball. Today, he brings a powerful message for young professionals, a message shaped by decades of teaching, inspiring, and empowering. Sir, we are delighted to invite you to deliver your session. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Priyanshu. Just give me a moment. Well, good evening to all of you. It's a privilege and pleasure always to be speaking at the ICAI. Double privileged to share the stage with someone as illustrious as Mr. P.R. Ramesh. And it's a challenge to speak after him. I'll talk to you about a few things which I wished I knew when I started my CA profession. And therefore, I wish that this is something that every young CA possibly gets to know. I grew up in the eastern part of India, in an industrial township that belonged to the Tatars. And bulk, therefore, of quote unquote my value system, if I could call it that, was based on what happened there and the foundations that were laid there. The first and foremost thing that I must tell you is that my path was not scripted. Neither will anybody else's path be scripted. I'll give you a very quick example. When I decided that I would do my chartered accountancy, my father's friend told me that the best and brightest boys, the best and brightest girls take up medicine or take up engineering, and that CA is therefore not for you. I said that could be right, but then my heart is neither in engineering nor in medicine because I neither understand physics nor do I understand biology. The point that I'm trying to make out here is that if someone were to ask my batchmates about what is it that I'm doing today, I think many of them would be terribly surprised. And if I were to think of my many batchmates who are today extremely successful in corporate India, who are extremely successful in different walks of life, if I were to ask myself that so many years ago in college, would I have imagined that these guys will scale this height, or whether some of them will not move forward? I think I would be terribly surprised if I tell you that I would have known it, because I wouldn't. The first message, therefore, that I'm trying to tell you is that this great idea that we must have a 20-year goal, we must have a 10-year plan, etc., doesn't really work. What works is that you lay down a few values, and I'm using the word value in a very general sense. You lay down a few things that you will not sacrifice come hell or high water, and you believe that that will take you on the path to success. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying by any stretch of imagination don't have goals. You must have goals. I'm not saying by any stretch of imagination don't have targets. You must have targets. But please remember that these goals, these targets are moving goals and moving targets. They change with time. I'll talk to you about 5 things. And I will try to the best of my ability to try provide you with examples, provide you with stories, some of them drawn from my own practice, some of them drawn from other people's lives. If some of what I say appear to be, let me use this phrase, talking about myself, so be it. It doesn't really matter. I would actually like you to distinguish the man from the message. When I qualified from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India many summers ago, I had, within a few days of the announcement of the results, some of the extremely well-established companies making job offers. These included companies in the private sector. They included top consulting firms. They included public sector undertakings, which were hot at that particular point in time. They included multinational corporations. In fact, I had 9 job offers within 10, 15 days of my results. I took 100 days to decide, de-decide, and then redecide before choosing to chuck all of these and go join a 10th entity, which was perhaps completely unknown in the landscape at that particular point in time. In today's language, you might call it a startup. In that day's language, I think the company was an upstart. I decided to go work there largely because I felt that there would be a lot of learning that will happen. And you will get some idea of what I mean when I talk about this choice. If I tell you that on the day that I landed up, on the very first day of my job, there were 3 chartered accountants who were working there. And all of them, the first question they asked me was, how, after all the academic background that you have, you chose to come join here? Lots of them left after 2 weeks, 6 weeks, few months. I stayed there for 16 months. By the standards of that company, when I resigned, I think I was a veteran. But I think those 16 months completely changed my perspective of things. Even today, I would want to tell you that I think the foundational skills of mine were established there. That was a place where, because of the nature of the job, because of the nature of the enterprise, you got to do multiple things. You would one day probably work on a budget. You would, on a second day, probably work on a business plan. You would, on the third day, perhaps interact with the auditor to get the works of audit done. And there were times when, after a DPR, a detailed project report, was ready, I would sit in front of a Xerox machine and Xerox 150 pages of them. What I'm trying to drive home, gentlemen and friends, is that if you show the right kind of approach, if you show the right kind of attitude, you get noticed. And possibly because I chose to do everything that came my way, I got closer to the leadership. And that's why I say it's your approach, it's your attitude that decides the access you get. And these happen long before your skills are noticed. Today, many years later, I still connect with them and we work professionally on multiple things. Before I move on to the second, I would like to possibly pick up and reiterate what Mr. Ramesh said. Maybe he did not say that in so many words, but I think what is important in professional practice is to do not what you want to do, is to do what the client wants you to do, which could mean that the nature of the work that the client offers you might be of a significantly lower grade than what you aspire to do. But you need to still pick that up and do, not just to build a relationship, but also because you have to necessarily work on what the other man needs, not what you need. And if you do that, if you stay with him at the time that he most needs, if you work with him at whatever level he considers is important, I think when higher order work comes in, he will think first of you. Why I say that is because today I run into a lot of young people who tell, hey, no, this is not the kind of work that I will do. This is the kind of work that I want to do. Now, unless your customer has a relationship with you where he has tested you on lower end work, I am personally not very sure whether he would move on to offering you higher levels. I'll move on to the second point. This is something extremely important. And this is something that I've hardly done. But I still wish that I pick the ability to do that. I don't know what people far senior in the profession or people who have been extraordinarily successful in the profession would say, but I believe that it is important for someone to go and ask. Unless you ask, unless you make yourself known, I don't necessarily think that the work will flow in. And if you're a young entrepreneur, if you're someone who has started up in the last 3 to 5 years, I think you need to do that. Even the biggest of firms, I know that, and without fear of contradiction, let me tell you that even the biggest of firms, even the largest of firms, approach client and talk to them about work. How they ask them is a very different thing. I'll give you a very quick example. I've spent the best part of my adult life teaching. Teaching for almost 25 years, teaching between 6:15 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning, 7 days a week, maybe 48 weeks in a year. And none of this would have happened had I not stepped in and met somebody and told him that I want to teach. Is there an opening? Is there a possibility? And I think that particular moment completely transformed how I led the rest of my life. Even today, I'm extremely cagey to approach people, to tell them that I'm available. But if you really, really want to win, I think you will have to make yourself available, let people know that you're available, and let people know that you're willing to do. The questions that you ask is what shapes the opportunities that you will receive. There would have been nothing more unfortunate than when a prospective client later meets you and tells you, hey, I didn't offer this work to you because A, I did not know you do this, or B, I thought this might be too small for you. Maybe today it's very important to market your product, market your service. Maybe today it's very important to brand yourself, brand the firm, of course, brand yourself, so that when people think of something, they first think of you. I still remember that wonderful ad that came long years ago of Jensen Nicholson, which said, if you think of paint, think first of us. So it's therefore important to create a brand. And while brand is not about selling, while brand is not going around asking, I think those are the first steps which lead to that. It is this ability to brand oneself, it is this ability to market oneself that distinguishes the high IQ top achievers at college, the high IQ top achievers at top B schools, and the socially conscious middle level, middle talented students or academically middle talented students in college. Like Mr. Ramesh said, if today we were to go and do an analysis of this, pick a sample and talk about what the high-ranking chartered accountants have done and what the academically not so very smart or not so very successful CAs have done, you might find, and I won't be very surprised, you might find if the top rankers have not exactly done extremely well. And bulk of that has got to do with the ability to market oneself. I'll go to point number 3. I talked about approach, which possibly is the rough equivalent of attitude. I talked about asking, which is the rough equivalent of branding yourself, marketing yourself. I'll go to the third one, and I'll talk about consistency. In this case, I'll give you an example from the world of writing. I had the singular fortunate opportunity of meeting Jeffrey Archer when he came to Chennai. And in a one-on-one interview with Archer for a local magazine, I asked him, how is it that you're able to come out with such wonderfully written, in-depth books across professions? And how do you find the time to do that? I'll cut his answer short and tell you that he told me that every morning religiously between 5 and 7:30, come hell or high water, he writes. And he said he writes longhand. That means he writes with a pen and a paper. I also had the opportunity recently to meet Mr. Gurusharan Das. I met him at a literary festival in Hyderabad. And I asked him, how does he get down to writing so much in the afternoon of his life? And he said that every day between 6:30 in the morning and 12, I sit and write. He says, writing is my client. Everything else stops. The short point that I'm trying to make is that we need to be consistent in what we do. It could be writing. It could be the decision to have a habit like walking in the morning. It could be a decision to drop into the gym, for instance. It could be the decision to upgrade and update yourself on the accounting standards. Even if these are for small pockets of time, even if these are for 15 minutes a day, you keep doing them 15 minutes a day, every day, day after day, and then suddenly one bright morning, you'll find that you've become an expert. A very rough parallel to that is how you learn your bicycling, how you learn your cycling. You do that every day. You see no consistent change happening. And then one bright morning, you find that you're driving and driving pleasantly. And this is true of everything that you do. This is not just true of our profession. It's not just true of any other hobby that you adopt. It is true of anything and everything that you do in life. I'm not sure who said that. Maybe it was Malcolm Gladwell who said that. He talked about the 10,000 hour rule. We can always debate with the number. What he essentially said was that if you want to master a subject, you need to spend 10,000 hours on that. We can debate with whether 10,000 is right or 5,000 is right. But what I can very clearly make out is that what he was trying to tell was that you need to hammer a thing out before you become successful. I'll share one story with you. It's a story that I've often said. It's a story that's a tad dated, but it's a story that tells you why consistency, while the English proverb calls is the virtue of an ass, is actually very, very important. This is a story about a tennis player by name Pete Sampras. Sampras, after he had won a Grand Slam, was approached by a journalist. And a journalist asked Sampras, what do you do after playing tennis? And Sampras said, I play tennis. The journalist thought that maybe Sampras did not understand the question and therefore he repeated it. He said, Sampras, what do you do after you play tennis? And Sampras said, I play tennis. That was when the journalist cottoned on to what Sampras was saying. And therefore, half jokingly, he asked, Pete, what do you do after you play tennis? After you play tennis? And Sampras said, after I play tennis, after I have played tennis, I play tennis. The short point is that people, even at that range of success, constantly practice. And I think we need to constantly upgrade ourselves. We need to constantly update ourselves if we have to be successful in whatever that we want to do in life. Each of the three that I've said applies not just for the profession, it applies for anything that you do. I'm going to go to the fourth one. Maybe my phrasing of that may not be 100% right, but let me tell you this. It's possibly a part takeoff from what I had talked about a little while earlier, when I said do what the client wants, not what you want to do for the client. It's something roughly around that. What I intend to tell you here is that the quality that you deliver on a work, the time that you spend on a work, the effort that you put on a work is not dictated by the invoice that you're going to raise. A piece of work takes X amount of time, requires Y amount of dedication, whether the client chooses to pay you 5 lakh rupees for the work or whether he chooses to pay 50,000 rupees for the work. I'm sure Mr. Ramesh will agree. I'm sure Madhukar will also agree that oftentimes, most of the times in professional work, you charge based on what the traffic can bear. You charge based on what the customer can afford. And merely because a customer can afford to pay you less does not mean that you put in less work, does not mean that you put in less effort. And if you serve your customer with dignity and grace, if you show him that you're able to put all your time and effort that's needed to be done on the work there, trust will automatically follow. And once trust gets built, I think work will start flowing. I talked to you about approach and attitude. I told you that one of the second key things that I picked up but have never managed to implement wholesomely is the ability to brand oneself and ask. I told you that consistency was very, very important, and it is something that many in the circle around me practice. I also said that it's our duty to do our work completely. And I'm now going to step into the fifth point that I want to make. It is about how you respond with people. I'll tell you a very simple story. I run an office, or at least at the point of the story, I ran an office which was functional. It was not something where you step in and you feel that you've stepped into a 5-star hotel or you've stepped into a 5-star service space. Not just that, I knew the place was functional. I also knew that the place had a lot of scope for improvement, but there was X reason why it had to be the way it had to be. I had an extremely, for want of a better phrase, let me say, an extremely wealthy and an extremely influential client to whom our office had served multiple years with all the sincerity that one could put in. And I would say that he would never want to move out of our firm. We always went to his office. We always went to wherever he was to discuss, to deliver on work. One day, he called up and said, I want to drop into your office. I knew this is not going to work. I knew this could be disastrous. So I tried my best to tell him, no, I will come wherever you are. He said, no, I have just landed at the Chennai airport. My home is your office is on the way to my home. I have a driver. I just have to drop a few documents and chat with you. Now, beyond that, I couldn't stop him. He turned up in my office. He stepped inside. He walked into where I was working. And you know what was the first thing that he said? He said, you have a wonderful office. You have a beautiful office. I know that he knew that there was a long way to go, but it was not a statement that he made at the end of the conversation where you can really think that he was being pleasant. He made it upfront. And that day I told myself that it is very, very important that in work, whether you work with whomsoever you want to work, it is important to encourage what they have done. B, not focus on what their flaws are. Focus on what they are good at. Maybe cheer them up on it as well. And that is perhaps the fastest way that you can yourself go up. The 5 things that I've told you may or may not be, or none of them may be new to many of you who have been in practice for 10 plus years. But what it drives home is the fact that these are some things that are very basic and very fundamental to doing things. Okay. I'll very quickly summarize what I said. I talked to you about having an appropriate approach to work, about having a great attitude towards the workplace. I spoke to you about being curious and asking and branding yourself well. I said if you want to be successful, you have to be consistent in what you do. You can't wake up in the morning and say, hey, no, today I don't want to go to office because I'm not in the mood for it. I said we need to have the sense of service. Money will flow in automatically. I also said that we need to be encouraging of people who work for us. These are 5 distinct mindsets, but they are one single philosophy, a philosophy that could take you far. I want to close out with something that most people talk about today. Something that I think was a point that was referred to by many people earlier. I'm a little cagey about talking about it, but I'll nevertheless go ahead and speak about it. People talk about values, people talk about ethics, people talk about integrity, people talk about honesty, and people talk about these many things. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that these are unimportant. These are, without a shadow of doubt, important. But I'm not too very sure, whether these are not things that change with time. What was socially and officially unacceptable 20 years ago might actually be acceptable today. I'm not saying that we want to justify things that are happening. But at points in time, I also think that we need to be realistic. We need to be practical. We need to be aware of what is happening around that. Yet at the same time, there are a few things that are fundamental, a few things that cannot absolutely be sacrificed. And one of the best ways to identify that, one of the simplest tests to apply that, is what many people have called the MAMA test. The test which says that if you do something, or if you want to do something about which you're not too sure whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, the way to judge its rightness would be that you go to your mother, you go to your father, any one of them, and will you be able to very proudly tell that this is what I did? If you think that you would be able to proudly say this is what you did, then it passes the test of ethics or fair play. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Why I made a reference to that is because our profession, like any other profession, like the legal profession, like the medical profession, like the profession of architecture, like the profession of teaching, like the profession of politics, if I could say that, all of them work in the same landscape of society. And it is therefore important for us that before we make value judgments on people, it is necessary for us to put ourselves into the shoes of others or ask ourselves what is the best thing to do. Let me close out by summarizing what I said. I said some of my fundamental understandings of what is right and what is not began long years ago in an industrial township in the eastern part of India that belonged to the Tatars. What I did not tell you, but I would still want to tell you, is that these foundational things were accentuated in the college that I studied, in the firm in which I did my internship. I still very strongly believe that if these 5 things are well known, well understood, well appreciated, and well absorbed and well ingrained by a young CA. The principle of attitude, the principle of curiosity, and the ability to ask, the principle of consistency, the principle of the importance of doing what the client wants, and the ability to build your team and push them along. If you do that, then I think the road ahead is going to be very, very pleasant. I also want to close out by repeating what I said earlier. I said that I had no clue to how my career would fathom out. I said that there's hardly any meaning in drawing up a 10-year or 20-year plan. I said that if you can draw a 5-year plan, stay with it, and modify it along the path, then that itself would be a life well lived. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.
Thank you, sir. So, Madhukar, sir, you need to ask some questions. So then after I'll take the other questions, sir.
No, take the questions first, because
Okay,
the
sir.
audience is more important than all of us.
Okay, sir. So one of the question is, how can young chartered accountant learn to say I don't know confidently without feeling insecure?
You want me to answer that?
Yes.
Let me put it this way. It's easier for a young CA to say, I don't know. I think it's more difficult for someone who's experienced and who's expected to know to say, I don't know. I'll not name the person, but I'll tell you this. In a seminar, which was extremely well attended, a young member of the audience asked a very distinguished, very experienced, and very knowledgeable speaker a question on a topic that he was addressing. It was a question whose answer he did not know. And he said, I don't know. He said, I don't know the answer. I will find out the answer and let you know. Of course, he found out the answer and let the person know. Personally, I think it is important for us today, even at any point in time, to accept that we don't know something. I don't think that the world would like to believe that everyone or you is aware of everything that happens around you, including in your profession. And today, luckily, there are gadgets, there are apps, there are sources from which you can pick information. So if a particular point in time you think you don't know an answer, I think it is good to tell them that I don't know. And I don't think you are going to be misunderstood for that. What will, however, be wrong is to tell a person that I'll come back and not come back. Is to tell a person I'll come back and then wait endlessly for him to follow up with you. That I don't think is fair.
Sir, this is one for Ramesh, sir. So how do chartered accountants change for his services to a client who states that other chartered accountants are charging less?
It is constant in any business or profession. You will always be challenged for your pricing. Now, it is like sometimes you go and buy a product, that fellow says, sorry, sir, hamara costing nahi hota. He takes a view. Now, the call is for you to see whether you need to adjust to the pricing because there are others who are willing to render the same service at, assuming same service, at a lower price. It is not an easy call. It has happened even when the United Kingdom, that is England, went in for retendering for all their audits as a result of change in legislation. And the existing auditors were allowed to bid for the same audit. And in many cases, they bid lower. So essentially, trying to compete, messages can be read differently to say, I overcharged you in the past. But the second way of looking at it is, we are all aligned to market forces. And therefore, we need to adapt to the market situations if we have to remain competitive. Now, it means that we have a margin which we built, we believe is a fair margin. However, I'm willing to make a sacrifice on the margin so as to maintain the client relationship and demonstrate to the client that our relationship is not transactional and it is long. But over a period of time, we must take a decision. We must assess the client as to whether there's a game constantly played by a client or whether we need a similar client of those value systems. Because if you see many industries, the prices have remained constant or lower over periods. And they are also driven by customers because customer pressure makes them change. And they get into industrial engineering where how can I give the same value or more value at the same price? And that's a concept. You know, today when GST reduction, the finance minister had to tell everybody, please pass on. So even though some were having difficulty in having low margins, and GST would have helped, the reduction would have helped them. But given the spirit of what is requested, I think they had to pass on. So this is not unusual. It happens. It is not that you have overcharged in the past. You have to adjust yourself to the competitive situation, and the choice is yours. If you believe that you're being pushed into this unfairly, you don't take that client. If there are others who are willing to pay you more for the same service. Both have choices.
All right, sir. This one is for Patabi Ram, sir. So, what values should young chartered accountants hold on to even when shortcuts seems tempting?
I think the first and foremost thing that they should hold on to is what I indicated earlier about is doing that particular thing, will it make it comfortable for you to try discuss with others? Okay. I would, to put it very, very, very bluntly, I would possibly say that you can't buy work. I would possibly say you can't buy off services in various organs of the government. Although today somebody might say that this is the cost of doing business. So you will possibly have to be clear about that. The third thing can also be, though I may or may not agree 100% with that, the third thing can also be that if you feel that the price that is being offered to you is below the value that you must charge, I think you can think that I don't want to get there. But there are often times that one would like to do that, although one might be guilty of underpricing because one wants to build goodwill, one wants to pick up future work. So, to cut a long story short, anything which you would feel very uncomfortable when you talk to others about you having done that is something that is a strict no-no. Some of the examples of that can be trying to buy off services in different organs of the government or different parts of the profession is a very strict no-no.
Thank you, sir. Madhukar, sir, these are the questions on, and you can have your.
Actually, I had added one question in the chat. I don't know why you missed it. That was
Okay.
for
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take it. How can one inculcate curiosity in 25-year-old knowledgeable and skilled office?
It is in an office where there are 25, we are 25 years old, we are skilled. It's a team which is doing well, but they are a little jaded. How do you build curiosity is the question. Pattabhiram, sir.
Okay. In other words, he's asking, if I've roughly understood that, he's leading an organization in which there are people and he wants to create curiosity among them. Is that what it is?
25-year-old professional firm. That means they are there. All of them are more than 25 years. They've been CAs working in our office.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. One of the things that possibly, if everyone in an office is about 25 years in the firm, I think that's a very, very risky office to run. If you've been there for that long, the reception to change will be significantly less. I would always think that an office should blood itself with new faces. Because when you bring in new people, they bring in new thoughts, they bring in new ideas. While there could be a clash of generations, but that clash is worthwhile because there are many different ways to do things. I would think that one of the important things an organization that has a majority of people who have been there for 25 years is to blood it with young people. When young people come in, they come with absolutely new ideas. And when those new ideas start working, I think the people who have been there around for long also realize, no, that I can't just sit and earn my livelihood. I will also have to be as curious or as asking of them. I think the classic story about of this is about, like people say, no, when you do a particular thing in an audit in a particular way, you ask them, why did you do this way? They tell you, no, this is how it was done last time. So if you get in people who have never been there last time, they are likely to come out with newer ideas. So my first suggestion, or the most important suggestion, would be that we should blood that organization with new faces, faces that are talented, faces that are ready to ask questions.
No, here we have 300 people, 25 are old. How to bring curiosity for them? But I got what you said. The newer blood certainly adds to that. How to make them? Because these are the people who may be our partners. A little more difficult.
I understand.
I have 32 partners. So anyway, I think I got the idea. So any other questions are there, Priyanshu?
No, sir. All are
Okay.
done.
So I would like, normally I start with a bit of what I would say, talk of the subject, but since we have such experienced speakers, I didn't want to say anything and come up short. So it was a wonderful exposition by both of you. And I think some of the very good takeaways, I think for me itself, if I see, for 14 years, I was a proprietor. I had written a couple of books with Raghuraman. Beyond that, I had not done anything worthwhile. Small office, maybe about 7-8 people in office, nobody happy. I was not wealthy also, except keeping up to ethics, nothing much was there. But then I shifted from I to you, what Ramesh sir said. So I to others. And if I were to add what Pattabhiram sir said, it was to serve. I started serving my staff. So that was the first set I served. And once I started serving them, they started serving me. And my number of assistants in our office started really growing. Instead of 7, it became 20 very fast. And then work also same way. Instead of just doing what I used to do for the client, I started serving them much more. That point, which was, I think both of you talked about it, was client focus. Focus on the client, what he wants, not what you are willing to do for him. I think that point also was struck a chord. All this learning for me was a bit late, after I was 42 years old. But luckily, in those 20 years, I grew the firm into a slightly bigger firm of 500 people and 30 partners, etc. One of the points which was asked, questions which was asked was about this, whether we should say, I don't know. I have been a very big proponent of I don't know. In fact, in my office, I don't know is a method of making others study. Even if I know the answer, I will say, I don't know. Then that person will go, can you look at this? Can you look at that? They come back and I ask them a few more. Oh, you didn't see the central excise cases in regard to immovable property. I think you should take some of the old books and go through the excus and then see whether you get an answer there. So this I don't know has also been a good tactics. But in profession, I was very clear. I was doing indirect taxes. So many people would tell me ask me questions on income tax. I may have known because I would have shared the stage with some of the very great income tax experts, but I will tell them I don't know. I think also our code of ethics is very clear. If I am not competent in any subject, I should never ever say that I know something. I should say I don't know. Another point about that fees was there. See, one of the things which we have been propagating in the CMP committee has been that get your knowledge in place, get the new age skills, get a proper attitude, do the right things, which both of you have emphasized so much. And I want to thank Pattabhiram for one thing which I learned today, which is implement encouragement. We understand giving credit, but that encouragement example you gave, I realize I don't do that. I give a lot of credit to the people, but I don't do that. Encouragement to that example which you gave was enlightening to me. Also, we are saying in CMP, add value. Don't do anything which does not add value to your clients. And I think that point which you said about Mama test, I can say that in our office, you go in any of the 650 people in any office, any corner of India, and maybe ask them, what do you like about this firm? They will say, we are proud to be ethical and fair. So I think that was a point which was emphasized by both of you, and it was very good. I really hope that everybody who has come today has made notes like I did, and it is certainly going to help everybody. Thank you so much, P.R. Ramesh sir and Pattabhiram sir. These are hosted. These videos are hosted, so I feel that people can see. Whoever was not able to attend can see it. So the people who are watching now, 1,400 of them, can tell their friends that it will be available on the CMP at ICI.
CITV, ICI TV.
ICI TV also will be there. So thank you, and thank you, Priyanshu. You
Thank
also
you.
are improving with every webinar.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
And I would request all the participants to please share your feedback. There is a link of sharing the feedback. So your feedback is very important for us. And you can also share the topics which you want to listen so that we can organize on those topics also. So to the end of this webinar, on behalf of the Committee for Members in Practice, we express our sincere gratitude to our chairman, first of all, the Madhukar, CA Madhukar Narayan Hirgange sir, our esteemed speakers, all participating members here, around 1,500 members have participated here, for making this webinar a meaningful and enriching experience. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.